I'd like to call the May School District Board of Directors August 8th meeting into session, and if we could all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone. Tonight we going to go ahead and elect, move into 1.4 for election of the 2022-23 chair. Do I have a nomination?
I nominate Ron Frame.
I second it. Okay, all in favor of that? Aye.
Congratulations.
Okay, moving on to 1.5, election of the 2022-23 vice chair. Do I have a nomination?
I nominate Dan Friedlow for our vice chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. 1.6, approval of agenda. Do I have a motion for that?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
1.7, audience comments and information. There is cards at the front, and if you wanted to have a comment, we should have received those. I'm not sure if we did or not. Or
Never received any,
so those need to be filled out. So we'll move on to 2.0 recognitions. Brian, do you want to?
Yeah, so we're gonna open up our board meetings this year with some recognitions from some of the great things happening in our schools. So the first one, or for our first meeting, we have a really neat YouTube video short, about 4 minutes long. We'll play it on this TV. Hopefully you can all see it. If not, we can shift over a little bit. But these are our high school TV highlight. Thank you, Mr. Pence, for being our tech wizard.
When I first came in, it was all traditional shop things. We did base construction, we did welding, we restored some tractors. Then we were able to start adding in some technology, and in doing so, really brought in a new demographic of student. We've really created a collaborative effort between my agriculture program and Ms. Pasador's graphic design, film and video multimedia program.
We work on the graphic design elements and designing them. They'll use Adobe, whether it's Illustrator or Photoshop, and so they'll design it and make sure that everything's ready for output before it gets sent to the shop with the ag program.
In 9th grade, I tried the basic construction class that Mr. Eggleston teaches, and I just like building stuff. And then last year in 10th grade, I took another construction class, and then I was like, oh, there's a computer construction class where you can do stuff off there, and that's what got me into ag tech.
I did some 3D modeling classes my freshman and sophomore year. My favorite part was printing out the objects and being able to physically see what I was designing.
I heard about the class. I heard it was a bit more like computer tech, which I really enjoy doing.
And so we've tried really hard over the past few years to do some collaboration where her students are doing the design work and then they bring it out here, work with mine output it, and there's really some good lessons there.
So I have studio with Miss Pasador where I can just take the time in her class to really design everything, get it right, and then I can come back over here into Ag Tech where we have all of the machines, then I can print everything out and it works really nicely.
And then we're really fortunate to get a lot of good equipment. And so they're able to really have the industry equipment, and then it's like you're designing, we get these projects, like we talk to the clients and ask what they want, and they go over the specs and everything, and then we're able to then go to the shop just like you would in industry.
Creating that industry-like experience for our students has really been one of our big goals over the past few years.
I really like doing the decals. Actually, our first project that we did was we were just getting to know the program that we used, Rhino, and so we were learning how to take an image and trace it, and then I'll vectorize it and then get it all prepped on the program and then print it out.
In this class, I've been able to use this cutter to make stickers. I've been able to use the 3D printer to make little figurines and stuff. And I used the laser to make a sign that lights up with some LEDs. It was really cool.
Definitely one of my favorite projects, the acrylic light project. I cut out the wood using the CNC router, cut out the acrylic using the laser machine back there. Once that was done, I got some lights that I bought off of Amazon, put them in, and now I can just have a beautiful acrylic sign that I can make whatever color I want, basically.
Our film and video program has grown a lot actually in the last 2 years. We started out with just learning how to edit and take video and spice some stuff together, and then we went into the video production, which is the second level of the class.
So starting out this year, I only heard about film and video from my brother. I had zero prior experience, and I learned basic things like planning, how to plan shots. I was very surprised at the amount of tools that we had available, like drones and video cameras and green screens. Just everything is awesome. There's so much you can do in this class, and it's a lot of fun.
This is a free draw that I kind of took to like a second level, I guess you could say. It started out as a sketch, and I slowly started like playing around with colors, and then I kind of found what I liked and had an idea and then made it a thing.
When it really gets fun is around Christmas time and holidays, where the students, they've done a few projects and they've taken it home. Now all of a sudden they're coming in, hey, mom and dad want me to do XYZ, is that okay? And yes, because I want them to extend their learning beyond what I'm trying to teach. It's all of a sudden they've got a product or a project that, you know, is real and has some real importance to them, and that's a lot of fun.
My favorite part is that there isn't a lot of people, so the teacher is actually able to help you and figure out the problems, and they were able to just make all this stuff. I've never been able to do something like that before. We were just able to do something on the computer and then just take it to a machine and just make it.
Currently, I've signed up for film and video studios and graphic design studios for next year. And now I look forward to making another sequel to this one because we all enjoyed the project so much, so we definitely want to make a second one next school year or maybe even over the summer.
The teacher bonds that I've been able to make in like such a short amount of time compared to like how long I was at my other school, it's so nice. It feels like a lot more like personal.
Great. Jacob, wasn't some of the ag equipment that's so good donated at one point? Was there a fair amount of contribution from the community?
Yeah, we've had some equipment out there donated, and then we've also, through PacTech, which is a collaboration with PCC, been able to get some PacTech funds to purchase some certain equipment. And then also High School Success, the Measure 98 funds as well, trying to get some of the, some people call them toys, the very fancy equipment like the laser engraver and things like that, pretty impressive stuff.
Learning tool.
Yes.
And they just won, is it a Weyerhaeuser Design Award? Or was it?
Hampton Lumber did a contest where any school in the area where there was a Hampton lumber mill, so the one here in town. They asked students to design a new logo for their lumber wraps that would then go on any lumber that was coming out of that mill to be shipped all over the country to Home Depots and things like that. And 2 of our students were selected as the grand prize winner. So they were so impressive. The number of students that submitted, they gave every student $50 and then a grand prize. I can't remember what it was, but significant amount of money to the winning artists. So, and for all of those students, I think it was the first time for each of them that they've been paid for this sort of work. And it kind of light bulbs going off, like, wait, I can earn money doing this. This is just like fun. So yeah, it's really great university.
Brian, thank you for the recognition. Move on to audience comments, 3.0. We didn't have any. So we'll move on to 4.0, presentations and report. And Brian, you're up.
Thanks, Chair Fraley. Thanks, members of the board. Thank you, everyone in the audience tonight and everyone watching and listening virtually. I just want to open my remarks, moving superintendent comments at the beginning, so I can kind of help set the stage for the meeting, kind of tee up for you all what's going to be addressed and hopefully address any kind of immediate or outstanding needs. But I just want to start by thanking the board for putting trust in me to come into this position for this awesome community. Not only have I had the chance to meet with all of you and a majority of the staff, but also a number of community members, and it's just so nice to be in a community with everyone so involved, everyone so passionate, and everyone so excited to really help support our students and support ideas like you saw on the screen a minute ago, and support students and you know, their hopes and their dreams. Just thanks to the community for showing up always to share what's on your hearts, to share what's on your minds, and to share how you feel we can work together to serve the students and the families of this district. So I just want to open up with some words of thanks. Just for the board and for the community, what's kind of coming up immediately for us, we welcome our staff back on August 22nd, so 2 weeks from today. We're excited to welcome our new staff back, our new staff members, and welcome them into the Banks community or school district. The next day, we'll welcome back all staff members and just really kick off a great and exciting academic school year with all of them. Our theme for the year, I'll go into a little more detail in my third report, I guess. But our theme for the year is going to be the Brave Experience. And that's going to kind of be our motto or our slogan as we think about how we organize and we get excited about our work. And I really chose the word brave from some of the comments, multiple comments that were made at the first board meeting I attended formally. Really leaning on our partners in the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde to help us think about what it really means to be that Banks Brave, think about how we interpret that as a community, and then think about how we support the student experience, the staff experience, the community experience, and the experience that we have through our facilities and our financial responsibilities. So you'll hear me reference that a number of times tonight, and you'll probably get sick of me saying that throughout the year. Is what is that brave experience and what does it mean to be Banks Brave? But we're gonna talk about that together, and then we're gonna embrace that responsibility of delivering on this problem. Just a little preview of the meeting tonight. We'll hear 2 additional reports, both from me. The first one will be our COVID plan for the year. That's just a requirement for us to show it to the board. It is the responsibility of the school district to implement it. We have to submit it through typical ODE protocols by, I believe it's August 26th, that date correct. But I'll summarize it for you, but you also have copies of the full reports in the packet. And then I'll summarize my superintendent entry plan, and that's just the way that I've thought about prioritizing the work to sort of kick off the year. It's not a strategic plan, it's not a long-term plan for the district, but it is a plan to get us started towards some of those things based on the conversations I've had. So that'll be your second report. You have a pretty big consent agenda. Tonight serves as your organizational meeting for the year. You'll be approving a wide variety of topics. Just a reminder, consent agenda items are just approved with one motion. So if you would need to discuss any in detail, it's probably better to pull those out and after we need those back for more action. We have one discussion item. Our business manager is here to talk about one shift in policy or one rewriting of policy that's just simply intended to bring some language of the policy more in line with state law. There's a little bit of numbers that kind of contradict each other because we haven't updated that policy in a while. Dustin will walk us through that. And then finally, the action items, we just have 4 contracts, or 3 contracts and 1 set of fees. Again, kind of typical beginning of the year stuff. You don't have the full contents of the contracts in your packet, but we'll do that. Then we'll just end it with your comments. So with that, it's okay with you, Chair Friend, we'll move right into the COVID plan. Yes, please. So in your packets, you'll see, and what's in the online version of the packets are all 3 COVID plans. Each school, it's the same as last year, each school has to submit an individual COVID plan, but what you'll see is they're very similar, if not identical. The biggest difference that I see this year compared to next year is when we look at guidance from the Oregon Health Authority, we look at guidance from the Oregon Department of Education, and we look at guidance from Washington County Department of Public Health. They're really not providing us with any requirements. They're not saying you must do this in any kind of wide sweeping sense. They're continuing to give guidance, but each community, each school district is responsible for defining really what our mitigation strategies and what our response to COVID will be. So what those reports build from are the strategies from those organizations, as well as the strategies recommended by the CDC. I do want to highlight that CDC idea for a minute, because it presents a good way to illustrate some numbers that we'll be using to make our decisions. So the CDC looked at Washington County, and they looked at the total number of cases in Washington County, and they looked at the number of hospitalizations in Washington County and as a ratio of beds and intensive care and all that. And from that, they determined that the COVID community level right now, because of the number of cases and the number of hospitalizations, is considered high. And there's a number of strategies that are suggested. But what they don't do is they don't break that down by region of the county. And that the county, Washington County, of course, includes Eastern Washington County, includes Beaverton, includes Hillsborough, where frankly, it's much more densely populated. People are just living a lot closer together. And it's just not the experience that we will always see here in Banks. So we'll be using data to make our decisions more localized to Banks, and specifically around the impacts that COVID may have, and hopefully not, but may and will be ready for it if it does, have on the operations of the district. Specifically, we'll be looking at staff and student attendance to make our decision. Our North Star, if you will, when we talk about all our COVID mitigation strategies, will be three things, right? It'll be a safe experience for our students and staff, it'll be a consistent experience for our students and staff, and will be an in-person experience for our students and staff. And that's the operation that we're constantly going to be trying to maintain. And if COVID interrupts any of those things, that's when we'll be making further implementation of further strategies. A number we'll be using is 20%, but I'm going to say about 1,000 times, because nothing's black and white in this. And just because one of those thresholds hit 20% of staff or students absent due to illness, doesn't necessarily mean we'll do something. But that is the point where we'll be concerned and we'll be looking at the management team to make decisions. So I just want to close out my COVID report on what strategies will be in place all the time and what strategies we may consider should the numbers begin impacting our operations. So remember, we do a lot of things all the time that are going to help limit and slow the spread of COVID and limit the impact that COVID would have on our operations. One is just communication and awareness. We will be letting the community know what the levels are, again, according to the CDC and according to what Washington County Public Health gives us as information. We're going to continue to ask people to stay home if they are sick. We'll continue to follow guidance of an isolation period if you do test positive for COVID-19. We will have diagnostic and screening testing available for staff and students. So diagnostic is, of course, if you feel sick, we'll be able to provide a test to let people know if they have if they contracted the virus that causes COVID. Screening testing will be a program through OHSU where students can just sign up and pay. Last year was weekly. We haven't got all the details yet. I assume it'll be weekly again. And they can just take a test, whether they feel sick or not, and then we'll just give back to them to let them know really if they're an asymptomatic case or not. And they may choose as a family to make some home decisions and then allow us to help them make some decisions about what's going on. We continue to have upgraded ventilation, including those MERV 13 filters you hear a lot about. They're just filters that do a little better job keeping the air clean. And our system doing close as we can to those recommended air exchanges per hour. Vaccinations and wide varieties of vaccinations are available to everyone. Again, the idea around that is limiting the impact that COVID will have on both our hospitals and both our length of time staff within them. We have treatments available, and we're just going to maintain that anytime anyone wants to wear a face covering, they'll be allowed to, it'll be accepted, it'll be welcomed, and there won't be any thought otherwise, and that's the choice. We will not be implementing mandatory masking as a universal strategy to begin with. So just talk a little bit, just as I kind of close things out on this section of my report. What are some of those increased strategies we may do? We'll, of course, always continue with our universal strategies of mitigation. If though COVID becomes more impactful on our operations, we may need to implement increased distancing in our classrooms. That means teachers may have have less options for their instructional strategies they use, because they may need to use ones that keep students further apart from one another, again, to slow down the spread. Cohorting of students, right? That's when we keep those students in groups together. So if there's an outbreak in a small group, we can keep that group separate from the rest of the school, so hopefully not impacting the entire school. We may need to increase the use of face covering. We may need to reduce the use of volunteers. We may move meetings, parent conferences, those types of things to be more online and offline, or online or in person. And we as a last resort, we may need to move classes or cohorts into a temporary remote learning situation should we get to a drastic impact like we saw last week. Hopefully, as a community, we can avoid that. Hopefully, as a school system, we can avoid that. But those are some of the strategies that we know from the past 2 years we keep schools open for the majority of our students. There's just three things I wanted to highlight that have been kind of questions that have come up. One has been around the vaccine requirement for students or for staff and volunteers. That remains a requirement in the state of Oregon. If you were going to provide a good or a service to a school, whether you're paid or not, so a staff or volunteer providing goods or services need to be vaccinated. The requirements of the vaccination have not changed, meaning you have to have the 2 shots of the Pfizer, the Moderna vaccine, or the 1 shot of the Johnson & Johnson. That's still just the only qualification of being vaccinated, but it is still a requirement. You can apply for a medical or religious exception. And what that would do is if you had a medical or religious exception, we have to provide you with additional accommodations. Meaning we would have to provide you, you would have to use face coverings and regular testing to ensure that you are there. However, those individuals that apply for and are granted those exceptions will be allowed to volunteer in our classrooms, provided that it's not, that COVID is not adversely impacting our ability to remain open and in person. We'll still partner with agencies to remove barriers to vaccines if annual vaccines become available. If there's like another kind of big push to it, we'll partner with our local health departments to remove any barriers that families or students may have to accessing those vaccines. And then just the final one in this report, we will not limit the size of any of our gatherings, indoor, outdoor. So any of our dances, looking ahead to graduation, any of those types of things, we will just operate at capacity and whether they're effective. That's my report. A lot more detail in the actual report themselves. I did want to provide a hot topic summary. If there's any questions from the board on that?
You've laid out a lot of stuff that makes a lot of sense. I'm curious of these things, starting with your theme and then going into the different points at which you will explore deeper. What role did the building principals and the rest of your team play in deciding on what those would be?
Yeah, that's great question, Director Moore. I don't know on the building principals. The plan was given to me in pretty good, at a draft form with Rochelle, with our school nurse who had that ready to go. So I defer to staff to talk about that, what involvement, but for my communication with Rochelle. Any other questions? All right, one more report for me. Thank you for allowing me the time today. So I laid out a brave experience as our theme for the year. What does the brave experience mean? And our theme for the year, our work for the year, will be to investigate, collaborate, define, and improve the brave experience for all of our community. Again, like I mentioned early on, the term brave is intentional, as we will enhance our partnership with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Bronx to guide our thinking. Again, I'm going to talk about the brave experience in four ways or 4 areas: the student experience, the staff experience, the community experience, and the facilities and financial responsibility of our district related to impacting those experiences. I'm only going to give you one little highlight from each area. Again, the full report is in the packet. One thing I want to point out, every single goal in the brave experience, every goal in the superintendent entry plan begins with continue to listen, learn, and collaborate with our student, staff, and community. Again, like I mentioned, this is an amazing community, and I intend to work with all of you to develop plans and to guide our district. With the student experience, something I'm really proud of this staff and doing, proud of this staff and highlighting and coming on board with is we have a K-12 approach to attending to the behavioral health and wellness of our students. Our students have had a tough time the past couple of years, and we're all gonna work together so that everyone knows their role and everyone feels supported and everyone has the ability to attend to behavioral health and wellness through it's through a program called Character Strong, which will give every staff member kind of a vocabulary and tools to engage students with. Maybe most excited about with the staff experience, just our ability through both federal and additional state funding to invest in the professional expertise of our staff. We have the ability to right now take ideas that our staff members have as far as wanting to build programs similar maybe what you saw in the video around CTE, but then wide sweeping what our staff members are excited about this year, next year, and hopefully well into the future we'll be able to invest in them, invest in their ideas, invest in innovation, and help them continue to develop their amazing programs. I'm gonna highlight two things with our website, or I let the cat out of the bag, with our community experience. Really want to work on engaging our communication coming out of the central office. One way to do so is we'll be relaunching a website in the fall of 2022 that hopefully provides a more streamlined approach to communication. That will be our only new communication tool, but it's one that I think will probably be the most visibly noticed, at least by the most amount of people. We're going to, if we have a goal that we want to ensure that all students are loved, represented, and successful by our actions, we will relaunch our Equity Advisory Committee, which I know a few board members started to dip your toes in, and then I think COVID kind of put the brakes on that. But we have an opportunity to solicit membership from interested members of our community, build teams, and ultimately the purpose of that advisory committee is to inform the superintendent and to inform the board of where our actions may be causing disproportionate outcomes. We'll be relaunching that committee. And finally, our facilities and financial responsibility plans, I guess, really looking at some long-term planning. And the first action will be to relaunch our district's facilities team to come up with both a short and a long-term recommendations, plans for facilities. That's for like our buildings. And also to come up with short and long-term plans for our maintenance. So some of our maintenance has been deferred and some of our maintenance that we just know. And from all those things, presenting to the board, working with the board to develop and presenting to the board and the community a strategic plan. It'll probably be a 5-year strategic plan. There's a strategic plan that will help guide our work. That is what I have for summary of my entry plan. Again, happy to answer any questions that you have with it, and we'll keep you updated on that throughout the year. That's one more we'll keep coming back to.
I have a question.
Yeah.
As we've talked, one of my biggest priorities is the process that I think is most important, building your team. Building principles starting there with the reports and going down through that. I'm curious if you've given any thoughts, any specific steps you'd like to take in that regard, or particular thoughts or approach you have to doing that, and how that might, how long that might come into play.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. I think our staff, our principals are some extremely talented, extremely dedicated people who have already, basically proven that they earn my trust. I don't know if that's the right word, but they certainly demonstrated that their abilities should have the trust of this entire community. I hope that what I'm able to do is help to inspire them through working on a vision together, working on painting that picture of what that brave experience looks like, and working together to paint a picture of what the actions are that fulfill the promises that come from that brave experience. So as we look toward not only what we have in the vision and operationalizing that vision, but look toward what does it really look like to go through your 13 years as a student in the Banks School District, what kind of learning experience do we want it to have? And what does it take to not only inspire our staff, but what does it take to work with our staff so that we are delivering on promises towards that experience? So specifically, I thought a lot about how do we create a strategic plan, create action plans that fulfill those promises and build those action plans with the people that are in place and the people that we continue to hire.
That picture that you'd like to paint, will that be a picture that you paint and ask them to participate in, or will they play a role in painting that picture?
Yeah, no, it's a role that every member of our community will have now. Okay. Yeah, no, thanks for your question. Thank you.
Brian, one clarification is that we actually did not start an equity committee. We were exploring what that is. And only a couple of board members, Chris and Dan, was exploring what that looked like, because at the time, the equity committees hadn't reached the, small districts.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
So
Thank
we
you.
actually had, yeah, we had to start one.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification.
And Darla was part of that as well. Oh, sorry, Darla. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah. Was there any other questions from Brian?
Well, thank you for the summaries. I read the report, so I appreciate the discipline. That's very helpful.
Okay, let's move on to 5.0 for the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Moving on to, okay, discussion items, first reading, revised policy for DJC.
Yeah, so this is section 6 in your packet towards the very back. So Chair Frame, members of the board, and staff and community members here and virtually, thank you for the time. So what we're proposing is, so this is a first reading of a recommended revision to just one of our policies, and it's policy DJC. It's titled bidding requirements, and what the changes are reflecting revisions to the Oregon Revised Statutes, chapter 279. The last time this policy was looked at was in 2008. And since that time, there's been some revisions to the ORS regarding bidding. So the changes are highlighted in red here. The main thing I would point to is the threshold for when you would need competitive quotes. When we have projects or other purchases, our current policy is $5,000. We would need to get those competitive quotes. A few years after this policy was readopted in 2008, that number was bumped up to 10,000 for convenience, or as prices went up, that it became a little. The legislature recognized that threshold was probably a little too low. So this policy is basically just bringing our district's policy in line with the state law, which ours was a little more, was a lower threshold and creating more situations where we need to do those competitive quotes, where by law we only need to do them for 10,000. So if you have any questions, we are going to have a second reading next month, and if I can answer anything here, or you can email me or call me before that September board meeting. So the second reading of this policy revision will include an action item in the next meeting, and that will adopt the revision to policy DJC.
Thank you. And I would say, yeah, that might be changing here again.
Yeah, it could. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to 7 for action items. We have 4 action items. Do I have a motion for 7.1?
I move we approve 7.1 as stated.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Moving on to 7.2, approval of the contract for Sodexo. Do I have a motion?
This was Sodexo custodial.
Custodial. Oh, I'm sorry.
Food service.
Sorry. Thank you. Move to approve 7.2, the contract with Sodexo custodial for 2022-2023. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. 7.3, approval of the contract for Mid Columbia Bus Service for 2022-2023. Do you have a motion?
I move that we approve the contract with Mid-Columbia Bus for 2022-23.
Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, and
Can I
then
get
last,
clarification before we go to seven?
oh, I'm sorry, discussion.
Want to discuss it or nothing? Can I make a motion to discuss seven?
They don't have to,
I don't.
before the vote, we just need to call for discussion.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, I went too fast. Go ahead.
So I noticed, I looked at the school, building use fees. But I think there was something that said about the fields and things for our athletic program as well, but I didn't see that in here. I just wanted to bring, I think, kind of in line with, this idea of the experience, right, that I'm having. I think we recently, I was told maybe like the last 5 years or so, added like a field use fee for some of our athletics. And I just wondered what that went towards, and if that's something we want to consider maybe waiving for certain situations. Obviously, if we're using, like the building versus basketball, right, then we have custodians, we have to get into the building and all that. But, I think just like the football practice field out here, I wonder if it might send a better message to say, you know, if it's a couple $100 or something, we can get the charge for that practice field. I've heard some different coaches and members that maybe that's something that was recently implemented and kind of sends a message that the school district is really supporting those, supporting, you know, all of our amazing activities that we have, which is all volunteer and all run by donations, right? So we're always trying to fundraising. So I just wanted to figure this out, if we need to consider and where that's like, I didn't see it in here in terms of what the fees were for all of it. But I just wanted to bring our support. Attention. If you will.
Chris, I thought I saw fees in the board template. When I was trying something through right now.
I thought, like I wrote, I looked through it, it's a big catch.
Yeah, the fees are right before the discussion items.
But I don't think it doesn't include anything like gym.
Right.
So I thought like the school fee, you know, for using whatever. Yearbook and all that, but I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's not.
Yep.
So is it possible that we could get that and then discuss it next month? Is that fair?
So basically, we're talking about is tabling 7.4 to next. Or next, not next September.
But so that also includes all the fees for students for parking and things like that, which I'm sure you're gonna need before September.
Right, I think
No, that's.
They're both included in this action.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
gonna run straight away.
but I think I think what I heard, Chris, I think what I heard you say was you want not only to see the copy of the fees, which that would be right. But if you wanted to have a discussion about maybe putting forth some sort of addendum to a possible waiver, I think that would need to be covered in like a subsequent meeting.
Okay.
The waiver part of it.
Okay.
I think the reason that the fees didn't go in your packet was for facilities fees, and Dustin, please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe with the facilities fees, there were no increases or changes in prior years. Just trying to think through this before
We have the sheet that have. That was the sheet.
okay. So we probably do need to either pull that out as a separate item. Or you can call a recess for a minute, while we got the fees and we consider them. That way, or whatever they.
Yeah,
You can certainly approve what's listed.
Yeah. Is it possible to improve it and then go back and make an addendum to it next month and say, hey, can we address it? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
I'm wondering.
Okay. So do I have a motion for 7.4 approval of the school building fees?
I move that we approve school building fees as outlined in the board pack. 2023.
Second.
All in favor? That takes us to board. First of all,
Again, thank you everyone for being here. I just wanted to welcome our newest members of our base community and family. And welcome back everyone that's here, our new students, our new staff. I'm really excited about where we're headed. I think we're in an amazing transition time right now. And I feel like an energy shifting in our community. And I think this idea of having a student experience, community experience, staff experience is really a powerful way to unite our community and our district. And I really want to commit to thinking about belonging and really having students feel safe and feel like this is their home, right? For staff, for teachers, for everyone. I think that's really important for our community. And so I feel that momentum is gaining, and I'm really excited for where we're headed. So thank you all. Hopefully you have an amazing restful summer. I'm looking forward to getting in our studio again. So we have to work. So thank you.
I'd like to say welcome to Brian. I can't stress how excited I am to have you here. And I appreciate everybody's participation in that process. It was not an easy process. But we were fortunate to have a lot of talent. And one of those talented people was Brian. I'm really glad that he's here. The good news, the bad news about a team is anytime it changes, it has to reform. And I look at that as an opportunity. And so I'm really excited about that with the staff we have. And as well as our other office staff. I appreciate being here. And so I'm just really looking forward to this being a building year, but an exciting year and breaking new ground.
Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad to be back together again, and like Will stated, we're looking forward to this year. It's maybe kind of a normal year, that's what I'm hoping. I also wanted to let you know that we have someone that's come back, and we have had students come back and teach here because they love this school so much, and we see that again this year, which excites me that they love our little district so much that they want to come back. And I really love seeing the CTE program. Kind of makes me want to do a do-over and go back to high school. And I was just watching TV and there was our robotics team. How wonderful. And if you didn't hear what those kids had to say, it just blew me away with the knowledge that they have. And I was just really tickled to see that. And so I'm looking forward to a great year this year with each and every one of you, and we're going to do it.
Thank you, Ashley.
I just want to echo kind of what everybody said. I mean, we're really happy and excited to get going this year, and happy that, we have a new team, but I think it's a great team. So I'm really looking forward to working with you guys. Thank you. And I just want to thank you for the CTE presentation. And I just want to say to the community and staff, they're always looking for ideas on projects, and I know I've worked with them in the past, and it's really a wonderful experience, but it's also really good for the kids to kind of get lots of different activities and projects, so it really kind of helps their growth as well. So if you have a business or you're just looking to make some Christmas cards or gifts, talk to them. It's really a wonderful program, and I don't think we can highlight that enough. So, anyway, it's great to be back.
To my board, it's good to see everyone. Seems like it was years ago. Brian, welcome. Dustin, sorry, welcome. To our staff, thank you, welcome back. I'm just looking forward to getting this year started right away. Thank you. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, Julie.